All right. So let's all just take a breath and just land in the room. If anyone has anything that they'd particularly like discussed tonight, feel free to put it in the chat. But let's just slow ourselves way down. Remembering that slowing ourselves way down is how we let go of rushing forward. There is no fast, there is no slow. There's just this eternal moment that disappears from our awareness whenever we start trying to manipulate time. And the concerns of our day have just usually sunken into such a subconscious level that we are manipulating time without even knowing that we're doing it. And it feels like a rushing. It feels like there's something that needs to be done or accomplished. It spins us into this whole universe of illusion that we share with a million other aspects of ourselves that we call other people. But let's just collapse that universe right now. Really just slow yourself down. Let your mind relax, just like a dry sponge absorbing water and just expanding. Saturated, released. Just let it all give up. Let it all give up. Drop the fight. comfort you receive from dropping the fight is the closest you're ever going to get to what you're actually fighting for. I'm going to say that again. The comfort that you receive from giving up the fight is the closest you're ever going to get to what you're actually fighting for. You just want to be happy. You just want to feel good. And because you're in this illusory dream world, you dream up conditions that need to be met for you to have that experience. And then you trap that experience behind those conditions. But none of it's true. And when you attain it via those conditions, it's never lasting. It's conditional. So give up the fight. You aren't going to win. And that's okay. The second you win, the goalpost is just going to move to something else. One of my shaman teachers used to talk about the importance of enjoying the journey. It sounds like a different teaching, but it's actually the same teaching. There's a vast difference between reaching for an endpoint and relaxing into the process of getting there. One way understands how life is constructed and the other way doesn't. Anybody over the age of, I don't know, let's say 25, should be able to look back on their life and see multiple moments of striving for an attainment. To realize that when it came, all the feeling they were hoping to have from that either didn't happen or just happened very briefly. And then it was gone. Best case scenario, it just faded because it was a completed story. But more likely than that, there was instantly another thing that needed to be accomplished or done. I think it's important to be goal-oriented when you're building a story, just so that the story knows where it's heading. But it's pretty useless for spiritual life. I mean, maybe in the very early stages when the person just has no idea what any of this is really about, you give them something to strive towards just to keep them on the path. But, I mean, everybody in this room is past that point. look at the things that you're choosing to do. Are you doing them to collect some end point? Or are you just enjoying the journey? I've been terrible at this, for what it's worth. I'm a massive collector of endpoints. But I do see it for what it is. And I do know how to let go of it when it crosses over a certain line. And I seem to have this ability to throw it all away or light it all on fire the second it no longer serves a greater purpose. It seems to be a theme. What if you let go of every endpoint? Broke that little room of conditions that your comfort and happiness is imprisoned by, and just let it come join you right now. What would that mean for every moment? And then get this. With all of that peace and energy and diminution of drama, do you think you'd be more or less likely to actually get to the end point? If instead of striving for a future goal and dealing with the ups and downs of all of it, you set a future goal and then let go of it and just lived in the steps of that process. Do you think you'd get there faster or slower? More completely or less completely? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? And yet we miss it. It just completely goes over our heads. We collect all of our silly momentary prizes that are just going to get ripped out of our hands when we die. They're not what's going to have been meaningful. But here's the thing too. Nothing in life supports anything other than striving. The norm of life is always kind of pushing against what I'm recommending you do. It's why everybody's stuck. It's why everybody's, we're all on this hamster wheel. What it actually takes is remembering moment to moment to actually enjoy what you're doing. You know, when I wake up in the morning, I have never been a morning person. Nothing has ever changed it. Waking up at 5 a.m. every morning to ring bells on a monastery for years didn't once change it. So I wake up and I go, and my body feels heavy and kind of tired, and I'm not often in a particularly good mood in the morning. But you sit down and you just remind yourself. For me, that looks like, what do I actually have to give right now? And I just get in touch with what is flowing. You know, what good feeling can flow. What devotion do I have to give to this? What love do I have to give? What openness? It's not about trying to pretend that there's some massive wave of it present at that time. That doesn't lead to a massive wave. You work with what's there. You shift your attention to it and you let it flow. And then it grows. But it takes that kind of willingness to stop manipulating, to stop insisting that the moment be different. You have to look for where it is in the moment and just kind of let that enjoyment be present. You know, I could instead focus very hard on my breath and get my mind exactly rigid to its center. I've got the will to do all of those things. But that doesn't get you anywhere near as far as just not insisting on going a certain distance. It doesn't get you anywhere near as open as just sitting back and asking where the enjoyment is. Where is my openness? Where is my love for this? And it waves its little hand. And then you just kind of give your attention to that and let it open. If it's small, then you sit there as something small. And it grows. If you think about it, meditation is that. It is that enjoyment of the journey. You sit and you breathe and you let that be enough. And so your mind is not chasing future moments or past moments. And so the reality of everything is free to just unfold in front of you as you. And you've all had different levels of that experience. What made that possible was you weren't reaching outside of your moment. You weren't demanding anything be different. You just sat there and kind of let that enjoyment of the moment build. You weren't shoveling into it. It's just attention that builds it. It aggregates very naturally. And so as it builds, it's solid. It's actually sustainable, though we don't sustain it. We don't sustain it because our life has so many cycles in motion. Even when you're doing everything right, you're sharing a world with people who are living out high-stakes stories and paying you to play a role in them. And you could get away from it and live on top of a mountain. But I've worked with teachers like that. They're only good on top of a mountain and only when you're not there. Better, stronger is to know when you're there and know when you're not. Know when you've gotten sucked too far into the story and you need to pull yourself out of it and actually let go of outcomes and just enjoy the journey, enjoy where you are. That you've gotten too involved in somebody else's drama and you need to just remember that none of it is actually real in any lasting way. That you can live with any outcome, even death. So let's go into meditation. And let's do it without any goal, but to actually enjoy the moment that we're in. To actually just have the experience of breathing. To not ask anything of it. And just notice what gifts that automatically brings to you. And notice when your goal orientation tries to take you out of it. All right, let's do that now. Attention at the forehead and crown. And we're just going to begin to breathe. Just experience the breath. Let that be enough. What presence do you have to offer this moment? What stillness do you have to offer this moment? Those images that arise in your head from your day and sometimes from your past. Those are goals you are striving for. that haven't completed. Romantic interests, career interests, friendship interests, food interests. You took that infinite power that you are, and you dumped all this energy on the want of an outcome. Now it lives in you and directs your attention when you're not looking. The answer is to stay in the moment, to not follow the trail of the image. But it hurts a little bit, doesn't it? Like touching a wound. An even deeper secret, a deeper level to that, is that the only reason you did that to begin with is to avoid the realization of what you are. Because what you are actually annihilates your entire story. It's like those people that refuse to watch the videos from PETA because they know if they see enough of them, they won't be able to unsee it and they'll end up having to become vegan. Your whole life is that moment of avoidance. Once you see that you're none of that, a whole bunch of things you don't think you can live without just kind of slip out of your hand. On the other side of that is you realizing that you didn't need any of it. But you don't know that, and so it scares you. Makes you feel like you're just standing on the edge of the unknown. Just go ahead and fall off the edge. You're just falling into yourself. The practice of that, though, is just enjoying the moment you're living. Officially in meditation, but wherever you can during your day. Knowing when you've slipped back into goal-oriented consciousness and enjoying the suffering of that. Bringing that enjoyment, that awareness into that. And letting itself resolve, which it will. This isn't something you master and then are done with it. Because the whole mechanism of life pushes against it. It creates this really, really challenging learning ground for everybody. You pop your head out of the water and see what's real, and then you get sucked back in and you pop out again, and after a while, it doesn't even matter that you're sucked under, because you know what's on the top. It can be a totally cloudy day, but you know what's on the other side of those clouds because you've seen beyond it. So the meaning of the sky has changed. Even in the moments where you can't directly look at it. Do you see? That's the awakening. Not some perfect state of bliss. I've never met a teacher in a perfect state of bliss. Least of all the ones that say they have attained the perfect state of bliss. You have everything you need. So you can let go and enjoy this moment. There's no end to what you can become in this world of illusion. So you can stop waiting for the ending. There's nothing to miss out on. Everything that's real is here, right now, always. Can you sink into that? This week I want you to notice where you're at. Where are you on that spectrum between racing for a goal or actually living out the moment and enjoying just the road that you take to that goal? How present can you be for exactly where you're at? And rather than manipulating it, just pay attention to what each different state feels like. Pay attention to how productive you are. Pay attention to how the world around you responds, how smoothly do things flow in each state, one versus the other. And you have to really pay attention right away, because just the act of paying attention will actually undo the goal-oriented mode. But try. Try and notice. And if you find yourself upset, exasperated, or exhausted, shift gears on purpose. It just means you've gone too far in the goal-oriented mode. And just let your consciousness expand out to take in the entire space and everything you're doing in that moment, just the way you do in meditation. Try that this week, and if you're smart, you'll journal about it. You'll write it down, just so that you took some action on what you've learned. It helps bring kind of higher consciousness learning down into your body when you do that. Otherwise, it just sort of sits up here and, you might not see it again until the next time I bring you up here. You have to thread it down the mountain. Any questions about that before we end for the night? All right, guys. I'll be here next week. I hope you practice this week. Have a good night.